Hello, and welcome to another episode of Autopsy of a Writer. As always, I am your host, Brad Mitzelfeld. I hope you enjoyed the new channel music. I felt like it fit the title and topic better than the old music did. That aside, our topic for today is fictional forms, or forms of fiction. To preface this conversation, I should point out that most of the forms mentioned hereafter will be discussed in individual videos down the line, so watch for those. Another point to note before I go into this: everything I say when I talk about writing is my opinion. There are no hard and fast rules when it comes to writing. If someone tells you there is, that's just their opinion, unless it's grammar or punctuation related. Even those rules can be broken. Look at Cormac McCarthy. He doesn't even use quotations to identify when someone's talking. If you're looking for an example of what I mean, pick up his book, The Road. You'll know pretty quickly what I mean. All right, let's get started. As a reminder, we talked about what writing is in episode 1, so go back and watch that first if you haven't done so. So back when I first started writing, I basically only knew the typical forms of writing: short stories, poetry, novels, scripts. Nowadays, after really getting into the field of writing, I'm well aware that there are far more forms of fiction than just those four. Probably more than what I'm going to cover here, but this should at least get you started. The first form is the short story. Most people know this one. It's a complete story, beginning, middle, end, that takes place rather quickly. There's not a lot of time to get into the weeds, and the story is focused directly on the one specific outcome, with little room for side narrative, or side plots as we call them, or subplots as some people call them. Either one works. They only have one perspective rather than changing who we see the story told from. Short stories generally run from 1,000 words to about 8,000 words. Most are right in the middle of that, and I don't think I need to list any examples of this genre, as I think most are familiar with what short stories are. A variation on the short story is what we call flash fiction. These are generally anything short of 1,000 words and are basically a single scene that goes from intro to climax to resolution fairly quickly without any scene changes. There's even shorter versions of the fiction, like the very short stories popular on Twitter, which are 140 characters less, but there's not a lot of explanation to be made there. You tell a brief snippet of a story and call it done. It's kind of more of a challenge than anything, and to be honest with you, I don't really like them. Novelettes and novellas are so closely related to each other that they may as well be the same thing. They're longer than a short story, but shorter than a novel. They go far more in depth in character development than a short story does, but they still generally focus on a single character. If there are any subplots going on, there will only be one or two, and they won't be very highly developed, as the focus is still the main plot. These tend to run anywhere from 8,000 words up to 50,000 words. A couple examples of these would be Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men and Matheson's I Am Legend. After novellas and novelettes, we have novels. For most people, I think this is self-explanatory, but a novel follows either one or more characters over a long-spanning plot. It usually includes one or more subplots that may or may not be related to the overall plot. As an example, in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, we have a series of events involving Snape and Harry working on strengthening Harry's mind. We learn a lot about Harry. We also learn a lot about Snape and how he was the kid who was bullied in school by Harry's father. In the process, we can deduce things about Snape's motivation. This doesn't add a lot to the overall plot of finding out prophecy about Harry or learning that Voldemort is indeed back, but it's important later on to the story in later books, for example. Obviously, this also gives you an example of a novel. As for word count, they range anywhere from 50,000 words to, wherever you stop. You don't have to write hundreds of thousands of words like Brandon Sanderson does to write a fantasy novel, so don't really fret over word count. It's really just what it takes you to tell the story. Moving on from novels, we have scripts. Scripts come in a wide variety of types. We've got comic scripts, plays, movies, television shows, etc. They're all scripts. They involve the writer defining character actions, but also character speech. These scripts are then given to actors or artists in the case of comics, and they use them to act out the script or to draw it. Scripts are a complicated genre, and there are as many formats creating them as there are writers, so if you're really interested in writing scripts, I would suggest picking up books related to the kind of script you wish to write. No word count here, though there are often page limitations for comics or script length for plays. It just very well depends on who's in charge of developing the play or publishing the comic. Last major genre of fiction is poetry. From the likes of Walt Whitman to Robert Frost, we get a wide range of poetry. It can rhyme or not rhyme. It can be a paragraph or numerous lines on a page. It can be made for song, spoken verse, or just for reading. The point of poetry is to move the reader in a story that reads with character itself. The story is character. It is a very deep genre that is very hard to describe in not very many words, so I'll probably end up doing a video about poetry on its own at some point. There's no word count with poetry, just like there isn't with scripts. It can be 3 words or thousands. It really just depends on what it takes you to convey what you want people to feel. Well, that's basically all for today. This will be a short one. Next time we'll talk about a writer's motivation and muse. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and then hit the bell so you get notified when I upload new videos. Also hit that thumbs up button so I know you like the video, and drop a comment below if you have an idea for our next writer's perspective video, which, if you're wondering what those are, go back and listen to the Star Wars video because that's a writer's perspective video. These are mainly going to be about movies, so basically what I'm saying is put your choice for what movie you want me to give my perspective on in the comments below. I hope you have all have a nice day, and remember, write on.